You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
NYT bombshell: Trump sons cash in on $1.6 billion federal mining deal, based on an article by Matthew Ross. Family businesses at the center of state power. The Repo story. The reporting here is not about a few awkward overlaps or a family that happens to be close to government. It is about the sitting president's sons using access to the administration while the administration itself moves money, financing, and policy in ways that benefit the same network. The New York Times described a tungsten deal in Kazakhstan that tied Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump to partners whose fortunes were advancing through federal approvals, investor fundraising, and Commerce Department contact. That is the core fact pattern: institutional power on one side, private enrichment on the other, and the same names showing up on both sides of the transaction. Who had power? The leverage sits with the Trump administration. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick met with Kazakhstan's president. The administration approved preliminary applications for up to $1.6 billion in federal financing for the project. That is not background noise. That is state capacity being used to grease a deal with major financial consequences. The Trump sons did not need formal office to matter. They benefited from proximity to it. Dominati Securities, partly owned by them, took a 20% stake in the tungsten projects. Around the same time, Cantor Fitzgerald, controlled by Lutnick's family and overseen by his sons, helped raise $210 million for a related entity. This is not an accident of coincidence. It is an ecosystem of power converting public authorities into private advantage. The misdirection. The usual escape hatch is to frame this as messy modern politics, where business and government simply intersect. That framing is dishonest. The problem is not overlap. The problem is deliberate access seeking by people who profit from the office while the office keeps functioning on their behalf. The source also notes that the Kazakh arrangement was signed after the Trump sons' investment was made, and that the deal was not publicly disclosed at the time. That matters because opacity is not a side effect here. It is part of the mechanism. The less visible the arrangement, the easier it is to pretend there is no conflict worth naming. A broader extraction model. This is not the only example. The source points to at least 14 companies with financial ties to one or both Trump families that are actively working with federal government on critical mining deals. That is not isolated misconduct. It is a pattern of state access becoming a tradable asset. The same logic shows up elsewhere in the source material. Trump RX touted as affordability while allegedly serving as free promotion for Big Pharma and potentially benefiting Donald Trump Jr. through Blink RX. Tariffs imposed in ways that raise consumer prices while enriching Trump. Selective tariff relief after a luxury gift from Swiss business leaders. The recurring method is simple. Public policy is marketed as national interest while the gains flow upward to the already connected. Who pays? The costs do not stay at the top. Consumers pay when tariffs raise import prices, including the reported surge in Brazilian coffee prices after Trump retaliated against Jair Bolsonaro's legal consequences with tariffs. Patients pay when drug policy branding obscures cheaper generic options. Taxpayers and markets absorb the damage when federal authority is treated as a family revenue stream. This is how corruption matures in plain sight, not as a single bribe, but as a governing style. The office sets the terms, the family harvests the returns, and the public is told this is just how things work. The system beneath it. The deeper pattern is institutional cowardice dressed up as normal governance. Powerful actors do not merely tolerate conflicts of interest, they organize around them, legalize them with paperwork, and launder them through official meetings and policy announcements. The result is not confusion. It is extraction with a seal on it. What this story reveals is not that politics has become dirty. It is that in the hands of a sufficiently shameless administration, government can be made to operate like a private holding company with public consequences and private dividends. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Arctic, thanks for listening.